You're watching NBA Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. You can follow me on Twitter at HGrahamNFL. Got more NFL and NBA coverage over there, so check that out. Today's show, Kristaps Porzingis Trade Destinations. Let's give you guys the background info first on what's going on between the Mavericks and Porzingis. We've covered this a little bit on Dallas Mavericks Today. If you missed that, here's more info. The report, the Mavs have gauged trade interest for Porzingis quietly. That came from Bleacher Report. Mavs obviously denied that, but it makes sense in theory because Porzingis has missed a lot of time with injuries. He's been up and down when he has played. Outside of, somewhat of a brief stint in the NBA bubble last year, he's been good but not great. And the most important thing is the health. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's played just over 50% of the games since joining the Mavericks, which is not nearly a high enough number. You knew it wasn't going to be 100%, but 75 or 80, not even close. He's good when he's out there, like I said. 21-8 guy. He can shoot, he can score, he can block shots. Not a great defender overall, but he is a good shot blocker. Had a 6 or 7 block game just earlier this season. But the question is always going to be about the health. Now, let's get to the Mavericks denials here. And Cuban basically saying, it's not accurate. We haven't discussed him in a trade. And by the way, we're not happy that there is a supposed Western Conference executive ripping on one of our players. There's no trade discussion. I think they just used it as a way to put out there what they think of KP. Carlisle doubled down. Rick Carlisle did. There's no trade for Porzingis. Nothing that's been explored. I know Mark's denied it. I'm denying it. He's a Maverick. We expect him to be here. Now, I definitely think they've at least poked around to see what the value is. I also believe them, though, when they say they haven't, made any offers or anything like that. I think they're just saying, hey, we got a guy that can't stay healthy. Why not see what he's worth on the trade market? You're not doing your job if you're not doing that, quite frankly. So I think they're being smart there. Obviously, you want to keep your players happy, but when you miss half the games, hey, what do you expect your organization to do? So we'll see what happens. By the way, I don't think he'll get traded before the deadline, but this is a big enough story where we're going to explore some teams that could make some sense if the Dallas Mavericks decide to move him. So, pinned comment, should the Mavs trade Porzingis? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Might get hit with an ad break here. If you do, scroll down and answer this question. So there's the background on KP and the Mavs and what's going on here. Now, 5 teams that could trade for Porzingis if the opportunity presents itself before the NBA trade deadline, not the All-Star break. Number 1. Boston Celtics. This is a team that I think makes some sense because they need a big, and they've needed a big all year, and they're struggling as of late, which means maybe Danny Ainge is thinking a big move could be in the works. Fighting for a playoff spot. As we film this, they're the 9th seed. They're not even in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference, which is hard to believe, but that's where they sit right now, and they just don't get production from their bigs. I mean, Tristan Thompson and Daniel Theis combined are a decent big, but they're individual players. Neither of them are even averaging 9 points per game. Both these dudes are high-energy bench type of players, but one of them has to start because those are the options for the Boston Celtics. I think Boston could use a big. Obviously, any team that is going to trade for Porzingis has to factor in the injury concern and injury history, but I do think Boston could make sense for a couple reasons. Number 1, they can use their trade exception, which almost matches up with Porzingis' contract identically. And 2, they have young assets that would intrigue a team like the Dallas Mavericks. So here's the trade I cooked up. I'm going to cook up trades for all of these teams. For this one, Mavs receive Marcus Smart, who's from the Dallas area, Flower Mound High School, Tristan Thompson, Grant Williams, and a first-round pick for Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick. I'm not sure the Mavs can get multiple firsts for KP because that's what they gave up to get him, and he's been hurt a lot since joining Dallas, so I'm not sure that would be in the works, especially if you get a nice young piece like Marcus Smart, plus 2 rotation players in Tristan Thompson and Grant Williams. I think 1 first-round pick in this trade is more appropriate. Should the Celtics trade for a big? Type T for trade, type P for pass. No thanks, they should not. I absolutely think they should. Maybe Porzingis isn't the right one, but I'm typing my T for trade. The Celtics need a big man. And what you guys need is some St. Patrick's Day gear, and luckily we got NBA-themed St. Patty's gear for all NBA teams at chatsports.com/NBA Green. You got the Celtics long sleeve, you got this Mavericks short sleeve, you got all types of gear, including hats for all your favorite teams at chatsports.com/NBA Green. We're going to put this link in the comments and in the description and in the live chat if you are watching live. So just click and shop. chatsports.com/NBA Green. St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner, so rep your team while you're out drinking. Hopefully very, very safe, by the way. chatsports.com/NBA Green. Next up, the Golden State Warriors. This has somewhat been reported. Ian Begley did say that the Mavs reached out to Golden State regarding KP. Now, that doesn't mean Mark Cuban or Donnie Nelson called and said, hey, what are y'all going to give us for KP? He might have just been like, hey, hypothetically, XYZ, what would you give up for Porzingis? Two totally different situations there. Now, as far as the Warriors go, Steph Curry is absolutely carrying this team, but the issue remains that he doesn't have a sidekick because Klay Thompson is not healthy. He's not playing this year with the ruptured Achilles. Draymond Green can dish, he can defend, but he's not giving you that scoring punch that you need. In fact, he's been one of the worst shooters in the NBA, both from a field goal and three-point percentage standpoint. I think if you knew you were getting a healthy Porzingis next to Curry, that's a fascinating offense because you can play 5 out because Porzingis can shoot the 3 ball, and that's a tough offense to guard. But you just don't know if that's what you're getting. So as much as I would like to explore this for Golden State, I don't think they'll do it. But here's a trade I put together anyway, because that's what we do. James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins, and a first, Wiggins to help match the salary there, for Porzingis and Dwight Powell, who the Mavs would love to dump, I believe, at this point. Has not been the same player post-torn Achilles, which isn't his fault, obviously. Do the Warriors do this? I mean, they'd like to get out of Wiggins' contract, I'm sure, but do they want to give up a first? Do they want to give up Wiseman, number 2 overall pick? I don't think so. I think Golden State actually says no to this trade idea. The Washington Wizards have emerged as a team that has apparently shown some interest in Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Mavericks fans, keep in mind here, like Bradley Beal is a player we've talked about. Beal's unlikely to get traded at this point, even with the trade for Porzingis. So get that pipe dream out of your head. They're not going to do that when it comes to KP. But that doesn't mean that the Wizards wouldn't show interest and that maybe a trade couldn't make sense for both parties involved, and Washington may try to make a playoff push. They're 6 games below 500, but the East is bad, especially the back half. They're only like 3 games out of the number 8 seed. Here's the trade idea I put together. Pretty simple here. Davis Bertans, Denny Avdija, Robin Lopez for Porzingis. No picks. You get Bertans, who's having a down year, but he's an elite shooter. He can stretch the 4. Denny Avdija, who was a top 5, top 6 pick this last year, and Robin Lopez, who doesn't help you long term, but he can bang inside, help your rebounding problem for Porzingis. I don't think the Mavericks would do this, but I think value-wise, it's kind of what you're looking at. I don't think the Wizards would overpay since they're not exactly a major contender, but that could be what a trade looks like in the end. This would be a fun big 3, at least on paper. Now, this is a flawed big 3, obviously, because Russell Westbrook is a flawed player. Bradley Beal can't play defense, and KP can't stay healthy. But if they're all healthy and playing at their peak, that's a trio that can, on any given night, combine to score 85 points. No doubt about that. It would be fun. They'd be a league pass team. Wizards have shown some interest. We'll see if anything comes to fruition with Washington. Get subscribed to Chat Sports because we're going to have all the NBA trade rumors and news leading up to the trade deadline, which is Checks My Invisible Watch, coming up on March 25th. So hit that big red button and subscribe today. We also do other NBA videos, news, mailbags, all kinds of stuff. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV is the place to go. And if you're watching on our Mavs channel, YouTube.com/MavsTV, we have more Mavericks coverage, trying to slowly ramp back up here. We'll especially hit the big stories for you guys at youtube.com/MavsTV. I promise you this, if Porzingis gets traded, we're going to cover it on this channel. So go subscribe. If you're watching on Chat Sports, the link is right there. It's youtube.com/MavsTV. Few more teams here. Chicago Bulls. This is an interesting one. I saw this one floated out there, and I wanted to explore a bit, and okay, I'm intrigued at this point. Bulls are playing good ball. They've won 5 of 6 as we film this, and actually are the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Zach LaVine, kind of like Bradley Beal, not going to get dealt in this type of a trade, and he could use some help, so this would be intriguing to team him up with Porzingis. And a healthy KP is an upgrade from Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen is basically a poor man's Porzingis. He's way worse defensively. He can shoot, he can score, but he's not quite as dynamic of a player overall. But maybe a player that Dallas would have interest in because he's younger, or a similar age, a little bit younger, and has less injury concerns, less injury history than a player like a Kristaps Porzingis. Maybe the Mavs decide they're fed up and they're like, all right, we'll take a poor man's KP and some other assets and just ship you to Chicago. Again, don't think that's going to happen before the trade deadline, but this is a trade I cooked up anyway. Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter Jr., salary match there, who's a free agent after this year, so you don't have to commit long-term. Ryan Arcidiacono, who's a good backup guard and a first-round pick for Kristaps Porzingis and Dwight Powell. I think the value adds up pretty closely here. Does either team do it? Maybe. I think the Bulls would be interested. They'd be intrigued if they're trying to get Zach LaVine a legitimate number 2 there. And KP, when he's healthy, can be a legit number 2. It's always going to be hanging over his head, though. Can he be healthy? Rate Kristaps Porzingis as a player. Scale it from 1 to 100. 100 being he's the best player in the league. 1 being he's the worst player in the league, right? When he's healthy, he's like 85, 86. This is a good player in the NBA. It's an all-star level talent. We just don't see him often enough. Factoring in the injuries, I'll go like 82. Good player, not elite, but I do like him quite a bit when he is out there. Go ahead and rate him for me. Scale it from 1 to 100. Final team here, and I kind of went outside the box because a lot of you guys are thinking, Oklahoma City Thunder, why would they commit some picks to Porzingis? Well, number one, they've got like 50 first-round picks over the next 5 years. That's an exaggeration, but they legitimately have like 17. It's ridiculous how many picks that they have compiled over the last 24 months. They're in a rebuild, but it looks to be like they could be a little bit ahead of schedule. They're 13-19. They've been competitive. They took the Lakers to overtime twice recently. They've played pretty good competitive basketball this year. I like what they've been able to do, and they have some nice young players, especially at the guard position, like an SGA. They could use a legitimate big, though. And Kristaps Porzingis maybe could be that guy for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So this is the trade I put together. This is more of the Dallas focuses on getting the picks back trade, right? Trevor Ariza, Darius Miller, Mike Muscala, all on one-year deals, all just salary dump guys basically to help match up the money there, and they can just let go after the season. But in this trade, 2 first-round picks. That's the difference between this one and the other ones. Porzingis to the Thunder, and if you're a Thunder fan, you're probably thinking, why would the Thunder do this? Well, 2 first-round picks when you have like 16 is not a big deal. It just really isn't at the end of the day. So Kristaps Porzingis, it's going to be interesting. I don't think he gets traded before the deadline. Off-season trade, though, we might be revisiting this in the very near future. So we asked you at the beginning. We'll ask you one more time. Should the Dallas Mavericks trade Kristaps Porzingis, and for this purpose, before the trade deadline? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. I'm going to type my N for no, but it's at least something you should consider, which is why these reports are surfacing that they've at least gauged trade interest. Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and let me know.